The Christmas tree in my parents' penthouse apartment sparkled with the same pretentious ornaments they'd collected over 20 years of successful living, as my father called it. Each bauble probably cost more than what they thought I made in a week at my dead-end desk job. "Sarah, darling, are you still with that small company?" My mother's voice dripped with practiced concern as she passed around eggnog in crystal glasses that cost more than most people's monthly rent. "The one with the, what do you call it, startup ambitions?" I sipped my eggnog slowly, watching the snow fall outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of their luxury apartment in the prestigious Blackwood Building. If they only knew that my small company had just closed a deal to acquire this entire building, along with half the commercial real estate in the business district. "Still there, Mom," I replied softly. "Still working at my desk." My brother James snorted from his position by the fireplace, his custom-made suit stretching across his shoulders as he lounged in what he thought was an impressive pose. "A desk job at 32? Really, sis? I thought you'd have grown out of this rebellious phase by now." Dad lowered his Wall Street Journal, his eyes sharp with disapproval. "Your brother made junior partner at his firm last month. He understands the value of proper career progression." "Congratulations, James," I said, keeping my voice neutral. I didn't mention that my company had quietly begun buying shares in his law firm's major clients. Hostile takeovers were so much easier when you controlled your target's legal representation. "You could have had everything," my father continued, gesturing around the penthouse. "We offered you a position at Anderson Holdings. Executive track, connections, real success. Instead you waste your time with that, what's it called again? Phoenix Digital Solutions," I supplied, thinking about the holding company that was just a small part of my actual enterprise. "We're doing okay." "Okay." James laughed. "Sister, I make more in bonuses than your entire company probably sees in revenue." If he only knew that my personal net worth could buy his firm 10 times over. But tonight wasn't about revealing truths. It was about letting them dig their own graves, one condescending comment at a time. "Speaking of success," my mother chimed in, "have you seen the new artwork in the lobby? The building management just installed it. Very exclusive pieces. Of course, you need a certain appreciation for luxury to understand their value. I had approved that artwork installation myself last week, though through so many shell companies that even my most dedicated employees didn't know I owned the building. Yet, it's lovely," I agreed mildly. "Though I heard there might be some changes coming to the building." "Changes?" My father's head snapped up. "What changes?" "Oh, just rumors," I shrugged, checking my phone discreetly. A message from my CFO flashed. "Acquisition paperwork finalized. Announcements ready for tomorrow morning." "Well, they better not raise the rent again," James grumbled. "My apartment on the 15th floor already costs a fortune." I suppressed a smile, thinking about the notices that would be delivered tomorrow morning. Not just rent increases, complete renovation plans that would require all current residents to relocate. Temporarily, of course. For about 2 years. "Still renting, Sarah?" My mother's voice carried that special tone of disappointment she'd perfected over the years. "You know, if you'd taken the position at Anderson Holdings, you could afford to own by now. Like James." "I manage," I said quietly, thinking about my portfolio of properties across 3 continents. "Manages to barely scrape by," James corrected with a smirk. "Still taking the subway, sis? I saw you getting off at Union Square last week. Must be tough in this weather." I had been at Union Square for a board meeting of one of my subsidiary companies, but they didn't need to know that. Just like they didn't need to know that the subway ride home had been in my private car with my team of advisors. "Sarah," my father set down his paper completely, fixing me with his stern businessman's stare. "This has gone on long enough. You're embarrassing the family with this small-time career of yours. I'm still on good terms with the board at Anderson Holdings. Say the word and I'll make a call." My phone buzzed again. "Legal team confirms all documentation is in order. Security teams briefed for tomorrow's transitions." "Thanks, Dad," I said, standing up slowly. "But I should actually head out. Early meeting tomorrow." "On Christmas Day?" My mother looked scandalized. "What kind of company makes you work on Christmas?" "The kind that owns buildings," I murmured, too softly for them to hear. "Still working that desk job," Dad mocked, shaking his head. "At least we'll have James to carry on the family legacy of success." I paused at the door, taking one last look at their smug faces, the expensive apartment, the view they were so proud of. "Merry Christmas," I said simply. "Things might be different when we meet next." "Yes," my mother sighed. "Maybe you'll finally come to your senses and get a real job." As I left the Blackwood Building, nodding to the security staff who had no idea they'd be reporting to me tomorrow, I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best success is the kind nobody sees coming. My car was waiting not at the subway station but in the private garage. "Everything ready for tomorrow?" I asked my assistant as I slid into the heated leather seat. "Yes, Ms. Mitchell. The notices will be delivered at 9 a.m. sharp. Would you like to be present when your family receives theirs?" I looked up at the penthouse windows where they were probably still discussing my failures over expensive eggnog. No, I decided. Let them have their Christmas illusions. Tomorrow is soon enough for reality. Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in the moment of triumph, but in the quiet seconds before the storm. And my storm was about to break over their perfectly curated world. Christmas morning dawned clear and cold, the kind of crystalline winter day that made Manhattan look like a snow globe. I sat in my office on the 60th floor of my actual headquarters, watching the sun rise over the city while waiting for the inevitable. "Ms. Mitchell," my assistant Marcus appeared at exactly 8:59 a.m. "The notices are being delivered now. Would you like to see the security feeds?" I turned to the wall of monitors, each showing different angles of the Blackwood Building. The security team I'd hired was moving efficiently, floor by floor, delivering the official notifications about the building's change in ownership and the upcoming renovation plans. "Zoom in on the penthouse feed," I instructed, checking my watch. 3, 2, 1. Right on schedule, the head of security knocked on my parents' door. Through the high-definition camera, I could see every detail of my mother's face as she opened it, still in her designer silk robe, expecting her usual morning coffee delivery. "Mrs. Anderson," the security chief began, "I have some important documents that require your immediate attention." The feed had audio and I heard my mother's confused response. "Documents? On Christmas morning? This is highly irregular." "It's regarding the building's change in ownership and mandatory renovation notices," he explained, handing her a thick envelope with the Phoenix Global Holdings letterhead, my parent company's name that they'd never bothered to learn. In another feed I watched similar scenes playing out. James answering his door in expensive pajamas, his face morphing from annoyance to shock as he read the papers. Other wealthy residents, all receiving the same news. Their prestigious address was about to undergo a complete transformation. My phone started ringing. First my mother, then my father, then James. I let them all go to voicemail. "Marcus," I called, "bring up the lobby camera." The central screen switched to show the Blackwood's magnificent lobby, where workers were already carefully removing the artwork my mother had bragged about last night. In its place, they began installing the new building logo, a rising phoenix in brushed steel and gold. "Your father is calling the building management office," Marcus reported, monitoring the communications. "They're directing him to the new ownership's legal team." I smiled, knowing exactly who they'd reach: Catherine Wong, my chief legal counsel, who had specific instructions about handling the Anderson family's inevitable complaints. My office phone lit up. "Ms. Mitchell, Catherine Wong on line 1. I picked up, keeping my eyes on the security feeds. "Go ahead, Catherine. Your father is quite insistent about speaking to the building's new owner," she said, amusement evident in her voice. "He's citing his connections with the city council and threatening legal action." "Follow the protocol we discussed," I instructed. "No exceptions, no special treatment." "Yes, ma'am. Also, your brother's law firm just called. Apparently, he's trying to leverage his position as junior partner to intervene." I watched James on the security feed, pacing his apartment in agitation, phone pressed to his ear. "Remind his superiors about our recent acquisitions of their major clients. Suggest they might want to focus on retaining our business rather than challenging it." A commotion on the penthouse feed drew my attention. My father had emerged, fully dressed in one of his power suits, storming toward the elevator with my mother hurrying behind him. "They're heading to the lobby," Marcus reported. "Should I alert security?" "No need," I said, standing up. "I think it's time I paid the Blackwood a visit." My private elevator descended smoothly to the garage where my driver waited with the Bentley. The morning traffic parted for us as we made the short drive to the Blackwood Building. I timed it perfectly, arriving just as my father reached the lobby, his face red with anger as he confronted the security team. "Do you know who I am?" he was shouting as I walked through the revolving doors. "I've lived in this building for 20 years. I demand to speak to whoever's responsible for this outrage." "That would be me," I said quietly, my heels clicking on the marble floor as I approached. The lobby fell silent. My father turned slowly, his face shifting from rage to confusion to disbelief. My mother's hand flew to her throat, clutching her ever-present pearls. And James, who had just emerged from another elevator, stopped dead in his tracks. "Sarah," my father's voice cracked. What are you doing here?" I moved to the center of the lobby, where the new Phoenix logo caught the morning light. "Welcome to the first day of the Blackwood's new era. I trust you've all received your notices." "This is impossible," James sputtered. You work at a desk. In some tiny startup." "Actually," I corrected him, "I work at many desks in many buildings including this one now. Phoenix Global Holdings owns quite a few properties in Manhattan. The Blackwood is just our latest acquisition." My mother stepped forward, her social skills kicking in as she tried to salvage the situation. "Darling, why didn't you tell us? All this time." "All this time," I cut her off. "You were too busy mocking my career choices to actually ask what I was building. Too occupied with James's junior partnership to notice that I was acquiring his firm's biggest clients. Too focused on appearances to see reality." "The renovation notices," my father said slowly, the paper crumpling in his fist. 2 years. You're forcing us out of our home." "Not forcing," I corrected smoothly. "The Blackwood needs modernization. You're welcome to return once the work is complete. Of course, under the new rental terms." "New terms?" James interrupted, waving his notice. "These rates are insane. Nobody can afford this." I raised an eyebrow. "I thought you made more in bonuses than my entire company sees in revenue? Surely these market rate adjustments won't be a problem for such successful people." The lobby's tension could have been cut with a knife as my family struggled to process their new reality. Security staff stood at attention, watching the scene unfold while pretending not to listen. The morning sun continued to rise, casting long shadows through the floor-to-ceiling windows, making the Phoenix logo shimmer ominously. "This is spite," my father finally said, his voice trembling with rage. "Pure spite because we pushed you to be better." I walked to the newly installed digital directory, activating its display with a touch. "Let me show you something," I said calmly, pulling up Phoenix Global Holdings' portfolio. "This building is just one small part of what I've built while you were all busy dismissing me." The screen filled with properties, companies, and assets across the globe. My mother's eyes widened as she recognized prestigious addresses and famous corporate names. "That's impossible," James whispered, his legal mind finally catching up. "These holdings, they're worth billions." $10.3 billion as of this morning's market opening, I confirmed. "Though that's likely to increase once our newest acquisitions are announced." My father stepped closer to the screen, his businessman's instincts overriding his anger. "These companies, Anderson Holdings, you own. Your former employer?" "Yes, I acquired controlling interest last year. They just don't know it yet." I turned to face him directly. "That executive position you kept trying to force on me? I could have fired everyone who would have been my superior there." My mother, ever the social strategist, attempted to shift tactics. "Darling, we always knew you had potential. We were just trying to guide you." "Stop," I held up my hand. "This isn't a Hallmark movie moment where we all hug and learn valuable lessons. This is business. Pure, simple, successful business." Marcus appeared at my side, tablet in hand. "Ms. Mitchell, the press release is ready. And the other notifications are prepared." "Other notifications?" James asked, his face paling. "Yes. You see, the Blackwood isn't the only property undergoing changes." I took the tablet, showing them the screen. "Your law firm's building, Dad's country club, Mom's beloved spa. All recently acquired by various Phoenix subsidiaries. All due for extensive renovations." "You're destroying our lives," my father accused, his voice breaking. "No," I corrected him. "I'm showing you what real success looks like. Not the kind that needs to be propped up by family connections or displayed in crystal ornaments, but success built on vision, strategy, and perseverance. Security cameras captured the moment perfectly, my family standing in their expensive clothes, surrounded by the wreckage of their assumptions, while I stood beneath the Phoenix logo in my Armani suit, finally revealing my true position in the world. "The notices stand," I said firmly. "You have 60 days to relocate. Your belongings can be stored at our secure facility at market rates, of course. And James." I turned to my brother, who flinched. "I suggest updating your resume. Your firm's partnership structure will be changing significantly next quarter." "And what about family?" my mother asked quietly. "Does that mean nothing to you?" I thought about all the Christmas dinners spent enduring their condescension, all the family gatherings where they'd paraded James's achievements while dismissing my desk job. "Family." I smiled slightly. "Family works both ways. You chose your version of success over genuine relationship years ago. I simply chose to succeed beyond your limited imagination." Marcus stepped forward again. "The press will be here in 10 minutes for the official announcement." "Thank you, Marcus." I straightened my jacket. "I suggest you all return to your apartments. The photographers can be quite aggressive, and I wouldn't want your reactions to tomorrow's headlines to seem undignified." They stood frozen, years of social conditioning warring with their shock and anger. Finally, my father spoke, his voice heavy with realization. "All those times we saw you on the subway working late at your desk job. I was building an empire," I finished for him. "One that didn't need your approval or connections. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a press conference to handle." As they turned to leave, defeated and disoriented, I called after them one last time. "Oh, and Merry Christmas. Consider this your gift, a lesson in what real success looks like." The elevator doors closed on their stunned faces, and I turned to face the gathering press crews. Marcus handed me my prepared statement about the Blackwood's exciting future and our company's expanding portfolio.